Hello, everyone. This is Scott Findlay from the back room, and this is, I think, our third podcast of a series, and our second one in the prepping podcast series. And I think you guys know a bit about us. I'm not going to really talk too much about the back room and what we get up to, but briefly, it's just Wayne and I, and we've got this company called the Back Room. We're accountants, and we really want to help accountants sort of improve the way they do things. But I've got this guy beside me, Matt Vincent, looking very sharp, and it's his. You got to see, it's his debut doing a podcast today. So any bloopers we'll just have to mute out. But I'm lucky enough to get Matt with me today, and we're gonna talk a bit about what Matt's been up to, and we're going to touch on a wee bit of outsourcing and prepping. But firstly, I'll let Matt sort of just describe a wee bit about his firm. And he's got some pretty powerful statements in his or core purpose, really, or core values. And these are unlocking and realising business potential. And we share your vision and work with you to make it happen. So they're all powerful statements. So I'll let Matt sort of talk a wee bit about that and introduce himself.
Thanks. So Matt Vincent from DVA. Unlocking and realising business potential for us comes from the belief that a good business is there to serve the owner and not the other way around. You shouldn't be a slave to your business. So there's possibly a few of you out there on the podcast that may have heard that statement before, but that's something that we believe in. I guess a little bit about myself and DVA. So I joined DVA in 2014. It was originally started by my father, John, and Gary Duberly. And when I joined, my mandate was you need to modernise this firm. So it was pure legacy, if you know what legacy is. Some of the work papers were on one side of an A4 sheet. Just basically two and a half accountants and an admin person. And so, it was a blank canvas, and I've been lucky enough to build it and mold it into what I consider as a modern practice today. So today, DVA, we outsource, we are coaching clients, we're advising on apps, we're a paperless office. And we're starting to pioneer a little bit of automation and a customer relationship management software called Hubspot at the moment, which working with other accountants in that space to help them a little bit around that.
Cool. I thought when I look back, what Wayne and I did with our accounting firm, we called ourselves a non-traditional accounting firm, and certainly what you've been done to DVA with some of the work you've done with the outsourcing and work you've done with Hubspot, and a wee bit you're doing some advisory work as well.
Yeah, plenty of advisory, traditional advisory work in the sense of a couple of the players at the office are really good with property, so we kind of hold ourselves out as property experts and lots of valuations and restructures in terms of that advisory side of things. But we're also an adopter of the GAP, so we do a lot of business planning and org reviews and business development work. So, that makes up a big portion of our turnover.
Yeah, and being this top accounting firm, it makes it fun, doesn't it? You start to you certainly enjoy going to work a lot more, I'm sure.
Yeah, I definitely don't consider it a practice in the old school sense. It's a business, it's a commercial enterprise, and that's the way I approach it. We've got a bunch of loyal clients and a really great team, and we always look at what more can we do for them just outside the core financial statements and tax returns. And that's why we've got into app advisory and the coaching and those kind of things.
Cool. Now, you mentioned outsourcing. Of course, we know a wee bit about outsourcing, but I'm interested to know your journey with outsourcing. So, can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah. So we started outsourcing with Connect probably 5 years ago, I think, and the need was there. We wanted to free up more time to do the high value work. And we wanted to create a space for our local team members to become better client service representatives, so not just processing the accounts. So for us, it was a stool or a footstep into a lot more of that higher value work and deepening and strengthening those relationships with clients. But we also went down the track of the different model with, at the time, Toa, we're now with the back room, where we've got a team in the Philippines as well, two different services that they do for us. And it's become a part of our model, and it will continue to be a part of our model going forward. And had a lot of learnings in a few tough learnings up front. But the flexibility of our organisation and our team and our people were able to learn and adapt, and now we basically have that kind of part of our business humming and ticking along, where I don't really have to get involved that much with it anymore, which is
great. What there's always a few key things for outsourcing, a few tricks or a few hints that you might be able to give people. What would sort of one of your main ones be for any accounting firm or any business, outsourcing or offshoring overseas?
Immerse the people into your culture. So for us, the way we looked at our offshore team was the only difference between them sitting in the office or sitting in the Philippines is just a plane trip. And so we wanted to make sure that we embedded them in our culture. So we have a set of core values that the team talk to every day. Locally in New Zealand, we have a stand-up huddle, and then every day we have a virtual huddle with our Philippines team. And that's a real basic agenda. What are your wins from yesterday? What are you focusing on today? What are you stuck on? And how have we lived into our culture? And that basically brought them into a day-to-day meeting with the team, got really familiar. They know our values, they know what we're about. And we've been lucky to have held our Philippines team for most of them for 3+ years. So
that's great. Yeah, because that's one of the things, what happens, the typical why people worry about offshoring. They think, we just might have someone for a week or 4 weeks and then they're going to go. But I've always said, if you do exactly what you guys have done, bring them into your culture and really look after them and give them good work, and they'll stay. You'll get a good retention.
And I suppose a trip to the Philippines every now and then is not too bad when you're out of COVID.
And exactly, and that's something we'd encourage. Like most of the firms working for us pre-COVID, to some extent would have gone overseas, would have gone over there, or met them at a Xerocon or something like that.
Yeah, we had them booked in to come out here for a couple of weeks.
Excellent.
In April, and then March everything got locked down, so it was a little bit
damn. Yeah. Now I think just when we've chatted about this, you mentioned that your business, and especially when the outsourcing side of it, you took on this prepping as a part of drafting a sort of annual accounts job, and it's something that we're big on, passionate about. So for DVA, what does prepping mean for you guys?
Yeah, well, I guess prepping for us first and foremost came out from we were able to clearly identify a bottleneck, specifically with Connect. So we were able to plug our system into Trello at the time. It's now moved into Hubspot because we get a lot more functionality out of that, a lot more ability to automate what we do. But we were sending messy files to Connect, and they were coming back and just clogging our accountants with a whole bunch of queries, getting stuck in our system, trying to get it back from clients. It was just an absolute mess. So knowing that bottleneck, it was, okay, we need to reshape how we do things here. And that's where our prepping came from. And I was always of the belief that getting information to and from clients doesn't need to be done by $180, $250 an hour accountant. And likewise, you've got access to accountants offshore that can look at a file, say a Xero file, for argument's sake, and start to scrape that for client queries. Definitely some training involved there. So we looked at our prepping as a different way to do things, we were able to add a level of automation and up our service to clients via Hubspot. But the files then just started to come through very clean, and the mandate for our accountants is no more than 2 units, our local accountants, no more than 2 units on a prepping file. So when they're getting the file back, it's generally at the first review stage or at query stage, but generally we've got it humming now. There's not that many queries.
Now, before I drill you a bit more down on the prepping, this HubSpot keeps on popping up. Now, you're a HubSpot guru, or tell us about it. Why HubSpot? What's going on there?
I guess we got over a few hurdles with our traditional model in terms of our accountancy firm, and we've stepped into doing more advisory work. But I feel for me, the new battlefront for accountancy firms is going to be how they take care of their clients, their relationship with their clients, their customer journey and experience, and how they manage that. So we'd had HubSpot since 2017, and it was more of a want than a need at the time. And first and foremost, we were running our workflow through Trello. So we had XPM hooked up to Trello. You could change the state in XPM and move the cards. But there wasn't enough automation, and it didn't funnel back to a central client record. So HubSpot was a natural progression for us there. So we've got exactly the same functionality as we had with Trello, and it's now on HubSpot, but we've just opened the door to a system that I always talk about increasing the level of service to your customer without increasing the effort. So there's so many tools and gadgets in there that you can use as an accountancy firm to trim out a whole bunch of admin back and forward with clients, make sure that your team are doing the right things at the right time, meaning as a director, you can take your hands off the wheel a little bit. And we've just gone from strength to strength, and other accountants have heard about it and have approached us around it. And we've been consulting to other accountancy firms about how to set their firm up like we've set up DVA.
So out there, guys, if you especially interested in HubSpot and like we're using it at the back room, we'll certainly keep in contact with Matt, and your details will be later on in the podcast. Now back to prepping. So you use your outsourcing team. What sort of some of the outcomes that you got from it and from DVA?
So I guess you have all the traditional metrics around productivity, etc., and write-ups and write-ons, but our key focus was throughput. And we did a deal with the team that if we were 100% filed by Christmas, everyone would get an extra week's leave.
Cool.
We didn't get there. We got to 85%. And that was basically the key metric for us as a team. So the team didn't get a week off, but they got half-day Fridays through February, which they were pretty stoked about. And that was our local team and the team in the Philippines. But for me, it was prepping just helped with that throughput. You're only addressing clients maybe once, maybe twice, rather than back and forward.
Pick up, pick down.
So it just everything just started to flow through the system quite nicely.
Yeah, great. A classic case, what you said there, 100, to get it all by Christmas. I always say, don't let perfection get in the way of getting better. And your firm's obviously like that, and it's also taken on another one that I like is the Kaizen theory. And that you're forever improving. So have you got any sort of prepping experience? Any sort of experiences overall with your firm? Was it difficult to introduce?
No. So the accountants that we'd had on board in the Philippines had already been working with us for probably at least 12 months at that stage before we reformed the way that we did things. So it was a relatively easy step for them. Probably were over-engineering it to begin with. And so we basically just went back and retrained the team to the extent as well to make our systems scalable. We've implemented and are continuing to implement and improve training videos at each stage. So a team member can jump into that seat and see, prepping at this stage, HubSpot tells them what to do, and there's a video on how to do it.
Yeah.
So taking off a little bit of the stress off our local team for training.
So a bit of detail. When you guys mean prepping, because we might be slightly different what we did at Findlay and Co. What would it have been for you guys?
So prepping is basically getting the file ready for the accountant to start working on. And I know you've got a good analogy that you'll share later. It's the first time I heard it before, but I couldn't agree more. So basically when it goes to the accountant who's working on it, they mostly go offshore still to connect. A prep file is all the information is there. The work papers are to some degree complete because all the information is attached, and then from there it basically goes to processing. So that's where Connect do it, and then we go through our quality control checks. So prepping is basically getting that file ready to go off.
Yeah, sure. Did you go to the next level as questionnaires? Did you more detailed, or did it help with your questionnaire?
Yeah, so we have our Philippine team that process for prepping that we got them trained up on. We call it a specific query list.
Yeah.
So each client gets a specific set of queries for their file, not a generic statement.
Great.
So for example, if you're asking for a bank statement, it's this bank statement and this bank statement number, not just the closing bank statements type thing. So, and again, you make it super simple for your client so that they know exactly what they're putting in. I mean, how many times do you get some bank statements in and find out you're missing an account or have got the wrong account and you go back and forward? So,
totally. And I think what we did exactly the same, and we'd also, and you probably did as well, you basically got the Xero reports ready to go. You had the minutes ready to go as well. And even, populate some of those tax returns and everything. But Wayne and I used this analogy that Matt touched on is really like a surgeon analogy. Like a surgeon goes into the theatre and it's already prepped by the theatre nurse. It's ready to go. The surgeon goes in, does the operation, gets out, and then it's tidied up by the theatre nurse. And that's kind of how how you're running your compliance work. And, again, that's creating so many efficiencies.
Definitely. And for our local team as well, their quality control, client relationship management, but there's also capacity there for them to step up into advisory work, whether that's in the app space or it could be tax or property or whatever they're interested in.
So just back on quality. Have you got is your product or the outcome, is it inferior now or is it better?
I would say it's probably better.
Yeah, I'd say so because you've got an extra set of eyes.
It's definitely not worse.
Yeah, exactly. You've basically got an extra set of eyes, haven't you? You've got your qualified accountants in some cases, over in the Philippines, you've got your accountant here, New Zealand, doing the review or whatever, and someone's doing a sign off and a bit of a high level review at the same time. Yeah. So I guess in summary, that basically that's pretty much it on the prepping side of it, and just a bit about the background. We've actually now got a prepping service which we're putting out there to New Zealand and Australia, which is basically made up of graduates that were taken on, and we do a bulk amount of jobs where we effectively prep it for people. So it's a quite exciting space for us to move into. And in summary, and pretty much what Matt's saying, the benefits of prepping, which it's quite funny, back to it, like some accountants, a lot of them actually just don't sort of go, you tell them about prepping, they don't really realise it, but it's really just part of the job.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So part of the jobs, look, you're going to get improved margins, and we found at Findlay & Co. it basically was 15 to 20%. Turnaround time on jobs went from around 30 days to 10. Open jobs went from 10 jobs to around 5. And you also get this cool thing where you create a bit of capacity in your firm, and then you can do some high value work. And the other key thing, and which I'll be interested to know about you, Matt, is staff retention, especially for your New Zealand staff. Do you think something like this helps with your staff retention?
Yeah, if they believe that I guess the old school firm is
Yeah.
on its way out,
Yeah.
then definitely. I know when we've had new recruits coming on, most of them come to us because they're eager to get into advisory, is what they feed back to us, and that can be quite a wide range of services. So, but likewise for our incumbent team, yeah, they're stepping up into different areas that they wouldn't have done before.
Absolutely.
And they're definitely enjoying the
It's like you do what DVA has done. You're creating capacity, so you're now these accountants are now doing some work with at work, Hubspot work, advisory work, where a traditional accounting firm
just processing the
there's
accounts.
more processing, which we don't want. Hey, well, look, that's probably about it. I'm just going to last question for Matt is, how do we connect with you?
So you can get me on LinkedIn, just Matt Vincent, DVA, or you can email me. I'm pretty hopeless with my emails, but I have got an EA coming on from the back room who's going to give me a bit of a hand with those. But it's just Matt with 2 T's at dva.co.nz.
And one last thing I need to do, I need to present Matt with our new T-shirt, which he's going to have to wear all the time, of course. The backroom T-shirt. Thanks, Matt.
Cool.
Good to have you on board.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.
And we'll say bye to everyone.
See ya.